rivalry week. It's week 14, not week 11. I'll keep my coffee nearby as we get everything firing this morning. Tom, thanks for throwing on a hoodie. You know, your transition from pajamas to your morning wear looks fantastic. Why don't you get us started here? It is Ohio State and Michigan. We've got just seasonably frigid temperatures set for Ann Arbor. We got wide receivers that are banged up. And I ask you, Tom, is Ryan Day going to get tricked into playing man ball against Michigan? Is he going to get, are the Jedi mind tricks and the weather, is this going to get him to just be like, you know what we should do? We should run the ball 45 times. We should definitely not throw to any of our game-breaking wide receivers. Because I've seen that movie before. How do you think Ohio State handles this situation?
First of all, the worst thing you could do is look at the past and try to think that that's what's going to happen in the future because, Chip, it's rivalry week. And you know what we do in rivalry week?
Out of here. Throw them out.
Throw out the record books. All right? Doesn't matter. Nothing that's happened matters. All that matters is this week. Anything can happen between these teams when they get together because they just hate each other so much. And looking at the papers, no, I ran the numbers. Ohio State's going to win. They're going to win. No, it's an interesting situation because we have seen there has been like some kind of mental block with Ohio State when it comes to this Michigan game in the last few seasons where they have felt like they needed to prove something to themselves in the world about how they could play physical and dominate Michigan because that's what Michigan had done to them. But I do wonder if just not even looking at the football aspect of it, but just mentally, like going on and winning the national title, did that kind of, erase that? Do they feel like they don't have to prove anything anymore? And also, you've got a new roster. Like a lot of the guys who lost those last few games were all there together. A lot of the guys on this team didn't really go through all of it. So I don't know about that. But just as far as the matchup is concerned, like Jeremiah Smith is going to play. I mean, based on what he said in an interview this week, it really sounds like he's going to play. I think that they were just being extra cautious by sitting those guys last week. I expect Ohio State to be damn near fully healthy, or at least as healthy as you can be at this point in the year, who I don't expect to be nearly as healthy as Michigan, who's been dealing with a bunch of injuries at running back. I don't know what the situation is going to be there. And I do think if they don't have their backs, that's a big blow for them offensively because they clearly lean on their run game far more than Ohio State does. Ohio State's not a great running team. So I think the injuries impact the Wolverines more than anything. And I just wonder if defensively, like Michigan's still a very good defense, but the last couple of years, they had guys on defense that I thought were able to match up very well with Ohio State. They still have good players. I don't know if they have the same depth of dudes that they had, particularly up front. And I think that's a problem in this matchup for them. And then there's just the aspect of if you watched Michigan this year, like Bryce Underwood has been a freshman. He's had really good moments that show you why he's really highly rated. He's had bad moments. He's had ups and downs. But he's getting better as the season goes along. Like this team has won 5 straight coming in. But if you look at their schedule, they've played 3 really good teams, and they've lost 2 of those games. They lost to Oklahoma, they lost to USC, and then they beat Washington. And Washington, we've seen on the road, because it was in Ann Arbor, a very different team than when Washington's at home this year. So when you look at who they've played, like anytime they've come close to a team of the level that they're playing this week, they lost to Oklahoma by 11. They lost to USC by 18. Yes, both of those games were on the road, and this will be in Ann Arbor, so it's probably going to be a little bit different. But Ohio State's also better than Oklahoma and USC. So I can't sit here and say that Michigan has no shot of winning this game simply because I didn't think they had a shot in hell of doing it last year. And they definitely upgraded a quarterback this year, and they did it. So they can. I'm just not overly optimistic. Like, I think that spread is as big as it is for a good reason.
I don't disagree with any of that, really. I think when you look at Michigan, like they still want to be a physical football team, but like they don't have the same like consistency of run game that they had when they were elite, right? Like they do hit explosives with the run game. So like, how do you stay on schedule against Ohio State? To me, a lot of that is what this game will come down to. Ohio State's able to run like so many different coverages and concepts, and they run them well. And it's just like, because they just have like so many smart guys who are also really damn physical and like just, they're freaks, but they're also like, they got it up top. They can run a lot more stuff than you usually see. And you can run a lot more of that if you keep teams in kind of, negative leverage down in distant situations. So, like, how does Michigan stay on schedule? Does that mean you're running Bryce a lot more? It is all of a sudden their short passing game going to come alive? I don't really think that they can mash this Ohio State front and stay ahead of the chains that way. So, like, that's something I'm going to be watching for pretty early and often. Like, are they just stubborn with it? And maybe it works, right? Maybe it does. Ohio State is not. I don't think they're as good up front this year as they were last year, but they don't suck. I mean, clearly, it's probably the second best defensive front I think that they've seen. Oklahoma being the top.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and they didn't run it all that well against the Sooners. So I guess we'll see how that goes.
Couple things. I did see, I think Sharon Moore said he expects Jordan Marshall to start. I thought I saw a clip of that. So that's good news from Michigan.
Good.
Yeah.
The other thing that I was, because I saw, what's that?
No, I'm saying, like, reading some message board stuff, I think he was probably could have gone last week in theory.
Right. Jeremiah Smith, I saw the Caleb Downs podcast. I saw him say that. The only thing I will say, now BMAC, and I don't know if you overheard this, Bud, when we were watching games this past weekend, Ohio State was on, and there was some like sideline shot, and he goes, he's not playing against Michigan. Like, he saw him limping considerably on the sidelines and was like convinced like he's not going to be back for Michigan. So I know Jeremiah says he's probably going to play. I would expect him to too. This is the type of rivalry game. You do whatever it takes, but I do think that's impactful. And a couple things, I love channeling my inner Bud. Who's the best defense that Ohio State has gone against?
Texas.
Yeah.
And how'd they do?
They scored 14 points, but it was the first game of the year and a first start.
And I would say Washington was probably the second closest, which that was a game at halftime. The other thing, too, about Michigan that I do think is unique is they are committed to the run. Like, they are not, and that we saw that in Oklahoma. Like, they just keep, and then they had the one big Justice Haynes run that broke free. They are committed to it. Like, they don't care if they have a few 3-and-outs. They'll go slow. They'll just keep hammering it at you, which even if they're down 2 touchdowns, I think it gets really tricky if you get down more than that. But if they can just control the time of possession, turn this to an ugly game in nasty weather, which I'm sure they're all hoping and praying that it is snowing and cold and blustery. I didn't see the wind. I don't think it's supposed to be too bad.
Oh, it's just cold.
I'm not as confident. I think Ohio State will win. I think they'll break the streak, but I think this could be a sweat in the second half.
My biggest concern for Michigan is that if you look at them defensively, like, their pressure rate's ranked 25th in the country, which is fine. It's not really what you're used to the last few years. But the problem is that you see that in order to get pressure, they absolutely have to blitz. Like, their pressure to blitz ratio ranks 88th in the country. That is not a great sign for a pass rush at being able to generate without bringing extra guys. And if you have to bring extra guys to get pressure, that means you're leaving Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate or one of those guys in one-on-one coverage. And what typically happens to teams that have those guys in one-on-one coverage?
Washington tried to do it on that one blitz they ran early in the second half, and it was an easy crossing route, and he hit Jeremiah, and he walked in.
Mm-hmm.
I think this will be nervy. I could see there was something about the commitment. And again, we talked about it on the Instant Reaction show. You're down Jeremiah Smith, you're down Carnell Tate. We're just going to run the football and throw to the tight ends. Like, it was, if you really want to fiction this, it was as if Ryan Day knows he's not going to have his wide receivers for Michigan too. And that Rutgers was the warm-up game. And that you're just, Tom.
That doesn't make sense, Chip. Why would you do that? You're just playing with what you have. You're
Well,
running
I
your
know.
offense, but you're changing the positions.
I could see you get in that game. You're trying to play some man ball. You've been playing slow, a low possession, low scoring game. I mean, how many times have we said big spread, low total? I agree with you. I think Ohio State is going to win this game. But I vibes wise, I just think this is going to be nervy. And I think the game is going to play into Michigan's hands in terms of them having a shot. Now, do they have enough difference makers against the best defense or one of the best defenses in the entire country? Do they have enough difference makers to take advantage of having a shot late? I don't know. That to me feels like the X factor, the big operative question. I can get you to the 7-minute mark where everyone's like, oh, and maybe a little snow flurry starting to come down, and everyone's sort of gearing up because we've lost 4 in a row, and worse Michigan teams have won this game, and those games last year were low scoring. I just don't know if Bryce Underwood is ready for the moment. How about that? If Bryce Underwood is ready for the moment in what I think will be a close game in the second half, then Michigan can win this football game. If Ohio State exposes Bryce Underwood to be what he is, a true freshman, hey, guess what? Caleb Downs can bait you into something. Like there could be a game-changing turnover that absolutely flips any chance that Michigan has of pulling off this upset. I just think that there are a lot of conditions pointing this to at least that moment where Bryce Underwood will have a chance.
I swear to God, we had the same conversation about Notre Dame Pitt a couple weeks ago, Chip.
No, we did not.
Yes, we did.
There is no chance I expressed anything close to the amount of confidence that I have in Michigan to get it to the fourth quarter in the Pitt Panthers.
Okay.
Run the tape.
I only run the numbers, Chip.
I think there's a mindset too, and it's kind of similar to Texas A&M. And I know this one's different because you've lost 4 in a row, but it is human nature that if you lose this game, you're totally fine. You still got a chance for the Natty.
Yeah.
You got that backup. And for Michigan, this is everything. This makes your season, pushes you in the playoffs. I do think that is an edge that goes to Michigan.
I would buy into that more if Ohio State hadn't lost the last few years.
Right.
And we talked about it, like when Ryan Day talked to us in media days, he talked about how, they managed the schedule and then they kind of, maybe flipped a switch for the Oregon and Michigan games, and they lost both, but they were different approaches. And then they flipped the switch again in the playoffs. If you've watched Ohio State this year, they're kind of been doing the same thing. Like Texas, the first game of the year, you can't really, do anything with that.
First game of the year is
first start. Yeah. But other than that, they've been moving very slowly in all these other games against these teams that they're favored to beat by 4 touchdowns. They're not in a hurry to do anything. I just think you're going to see a different Ohio State this weekend than the one you've seen most of the year.
If they come out and start playing with tempo, there is like a classic cover 3 catchphrase. There is a number that Ohio State can put on the board that Michigan cannot hit.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys think there's greater chance for blowout than Michigan upset?
I would consider
Define blowout.
Yeah.
3 touchdowns?
I
mean, you just said something out there. No, but he would love to run it up on him. Trust me. Ryan Day would love nothing more.
I think the chances of Ohio State winning by 20 plus are about the same as they are of Michigan winning. I think they could win by 2 touchdowns pretty regularly.
Yeah.
That's it.
They could cover this spread and it feels like a blowout. I agree with you there. It's not a total money line, alt line. I just don't think there's going to be enough possessions for it to get that sideways, but I'll agree with you on that one.
I also think it could be a 17-point win that feels like a blowout.
Right. They just 14-7 felt like a,
they were down. They controlled the whole game.
They controlled the entire game. Final score 14-7. We watched that game. That did not at all feel like a 1-score game. A lot of aesthetics on that one with the late Texas touchdown to be able to make it that. Anything else here on this one? Of course, our best bets for Ohio State, Michigan, and the rest of Week 14. You can find that on Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time.